Jay's a genius, let's be real.
But to be clear, at that time, nobody wanted to sign him.
No one wanted to go near him.
So this is right. Like,
Yeah.
so you've signed, you signed 5 Seconds of Summer,
Yeah.
you signed Sam Smith,
Yeah.
you signed Jay-Z.
Yes.
You were the first person, like you originally signed, well, not originally signed Jay-Z, but you did the deal with him for the world.
Okay. 1996, I started a new label with Christian Tattersfield, the guy I now have NWS music group with. It was called Northwest Side then.
Yeah.
It's now called Northwest Sound Recordings.
Oh,
on Northwest. That's why we kept the name.
Okay.
So that was the original version of Northwest Side.
Got you.
So on the first day in the office, we arrived early because we got thrown out of when we said we were leaving, the old company said, no serve notice, leave today. We don't want you around. If you don't want to be here, leave. So we'd already had a deal set up with BMG, which they know, we told them that. And we get into BMG and they said, look, we don't have any space for you. So they said, can you go in the finance director's office? He's on holiday for 2 weeks. And we shared this one tiny office, which the finance director had. And Christian sat one side, I sat the other side, and we had one old-fashioned real phone.
Right.
And one computer. We didn't even turn the computer on. And the guy in the finance guy always has the wackest stereo in the whole place.
Yeah, of course.
Because that guy doesn't even listen to this music, right?
No.
He's probably listening to the radio maybe while he's
AM shit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we had his thing, and Christian said to me, you got anything you want to sign? I said, yeah, I had this guy, Norman Cook, signed to me as a Mighty Dubcats, and his manager, Gary, had told me about a mix album they're doing on Boy George's label, More Protein, Boy George from Culture Club. And he's doing it as the Mighty Dubcat, as Fatboy Slim. And he does these breakbeat stuff. I said, and the stuff's ridiculously good. And he's talking about making an album of it. And I was like, and I know him already. I already have a relationship with the manager, having a relationship with the artist. And Norman had loads of pseudonyms and been successful. Loads of #1 records in the UK. He'd been in the House Martins. He'd been Freak Power. All these things have been successful.
Yeah.
So this guy, and then he had Mighty Dubcats, so it was a hit all over Europe, and I picked up in the UK. And I was like, this guy's a repeat offender. We need to be in business with this guy.
I've never heard that before. That's good.
Yeah, I love that term. I told him about executives, managers. If they've done it more than once, hard enough to have one hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some, I'm very lucky. I've had a lot of hits. But you get a manager comes in who's had 2 or 3 over 2 or 3 decades. I'm like, that guy knows something.
Yeah.
That woman knows something.
Yeah.
Doesn't just have to be a guy. So anyway, he said, yeah, okay, mate. We were the dance guys before, so we were known for being dance. So Norman was like, oh, that fits in our thing.
Easy.
And I said, there's another thing that I always wanted to sign. But my boss had called. He called some random lawyer in New York. I don't want to say the guy's name. I haven't heard of the guy since. Who was like the hip hop lawyer, and it's some American lawyer who tried to hustle and said, "Leo, I can get you that Jay-Z project, but we want you'd need to pay a minimum of $1 million." And what the guy was going to do was call Jay and Damon and say, "Yo, I got you $1 million. Will you give me my 5%?" It's like a hustle.
Yeah.
So my boss came back and said, "Look, my hip hop lawyer, London Records had things like Salt and Pepper and stuff, so they had a history in hip hop music. Little did I know, by the way, Payday, which was owned by London, run by London, Patrick Mox's label, had already dropped Jay over an argument in New York. He had 2 singles, Dead Presidents on one side and Ain't No You Know What was on the other side. And they made a video for Dead Presidents. I believe a lot of this stuff I'm getting wrong, so I apologize to all the Jay-Z purists saying he got it wrong. But they made a video for the A side, and the B side blew up in the clubs. It was like the hottest song on the East Club.
Yeah.
Dead Presidents on the A, which used the same sample as Nas.
Right.
And on the B side was Ain't No, which was just an incredible record. Dum 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 dum.
Ain't No
dum,
what?
dum, dum, dum. No, I ain't saying. Trust me. No one needs to hear me say that word. You can listen to the record. Okay, so
Great record.
What a great record! I mean, a mind-blowingly good record.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jay's a genius. Let's be real.
But to be clear, at that time, nobody wanted to sign him.
No one wanted to go near him. That's why 2 guys in London, when we called up. So then I was with Christian in this office, and there's like Fatboy Slim or Jay-Z, Fatboy Slim, and he said, you and I have only done dance music. Like, well, that's what our reputation's for. This album's ridiculous because we were playing the tracks off it. He Can't Knock the Hustle.
Yes.
And then which Melissa Morgan, then the Mary J version.
Yes.
I Love Ain't No, and I loved the whole album, right? I just thought the album was just genius.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the cover. No, sorry, Christian was looking at the cover because I had both CDs, and he said, Freeze, you know the Freeze lot. That's Todd Terry's, the label Todd Terry comes from. And I went, Will Sokoloff, because I used to deal and dance. And I said, I never noticed that before. So I had Will's number, don't laugh, address book. There was my mobile phone didn't have a contact. Open the address book. I called Will. Will said to me, yo, I'll introduce you to these guys. I'm having problems. And I said, what's the problems? He said, well, in the old retail days, the records go from the distributor, from the label to the distributor, from the distributor to the stores. And each of them have a period in which to pay. So let's say the payment terms were 90 days from the store to the distributor and 60 days or 30 days from distributor to the label. So by the time they got paid 90 days, let's say it's 30 days, 4 months to get your money.
Right.
So you bought a copy in wherever you were at the time. By the time Roc-A-Fella got their money, but at the same time, the record was moving up the Billboard chart.
Right.
So they want to spend more and more money marketing. But Will had a cash flow problem.
Okay.
The money wasn't coming in quick enough to spend the money on marketing.
I see. Okay.
That's my recollection of the conversation. Sure. Again, this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
So he's like, yo, Nick, take the number, call the guys. If you can make a deal, make a deal. I just started a new label at BMG with Christian. So literally, this guy, Christian and I just sat there. We're sat opposite each other. I made a call. We're like, yeah, give me that. I was going to number. Yeah, 917, whatever the area code, or 212 to their office. And I put the phone down without even missing a beat. Boom, pick the phone up. 201, Damon Dash. Okay, what's his name again? Damon Dash. Okay, cool. Don't laugh. Swear to you, so I don't want to seem like, I think I called him JZ on the first call.
Sure.
Because like, I'm English,
Canadian,
right?
Canadians as well.
Yeah,
too.
exactly,
Yeah, we do the same
so
thing.
I called out, I said, Damon. He said, yes, and my name's Nick Raphael. I went and I came through, the lady picked up and she said, oh, what's her name? There was a lady, I can't remember her name, she was really lovely. I think she worked with them for years. And she picked up, she's like, who are you? I said, and I made it sound bigger than I was. I said, my name's Nick Raphael. I've got a label with BMG in Europe. I didn't want to say the UK.
Yeah, you had to do what you had to do.
I was
to make
hustling.
it seem like, yeah.
I was hustling.
For sure.
We didn't have a marketing department yet, there were 2 of us.
Yeah.
So they put me through and Damon took the call and he said, what's up? So yeah, BMG. So you know BMG? So you know, they got Puffy and they got Bad Boy Records and they got Arista with Clive with LA Reid's label, LaFace. And he's like, yeah, I know who BMG is. I said, yeah, I said, we're interested in making a deal on the J project and JZ project. And he said, man, when can you get to New York? We were 2 young executives. We were like, tomorrow? He was like, really? I was like, yeah. So he said, cool, meet us tomorrow. So we literally left the corridor, went to the boss who was like the UK chairman, Jeremy, and we said, can we book 2 tickets to go to New York? We want to sign this artist. And he's like, go. He just like, just go.
Okay.
So we got on the plane. We flew to New York. They had an office down in Wall Street. We go and meet them. Jay was sat on the radiator looking at radio play charts and which territories he should go into. He was impressive from day one. Damon was there being Damon, being loud, being whatever. They met us. The album had just gone gold in America after 13 weeks. So it was already successful.
Yeah.
But all the American A&Rs had said, yo, this guy's 8 years out there. He ain't the real deal. He's got a weird flow. They all had an opinion.
Right.
We were just like, the record is a hit. It's got smashes on it. We'd called all the record shops that we could call and say, how's the import going? They're like, yo, this is the hottest import. So we're like, we just want to sign it.
Yeah.
So we went and we had dinner with them. There's lots of conversation. I don't want to go into the details of the conversation, but we had lots of conversations.
Sure.
And they said, yeah, we'll make a deal. So we made a deal, had a structure where we could have the world outside America, and then we had an option on America, but with a larger sum of money. A really decent large sum of money, but it was for Roc-A-Fella label. And they already told us they had this DJ Clue and Memphis Bleak album coming soon.
Yeah.
Which both did well. One did gold and one did platinum.
Right.
So I said, cool. So I'm thinking, great. So I came back to London. We literally went back to London. I remember stayed at Soho Grand Hotel. I remember going to an Italian restaurant. I remember in my head, they had a white 190E Mercedes, the lowest Mercedes at the time. They had a Roc-A-Fella logo on it. Jay would sit in the front and hand out free CDs as they drove along the streets of New York. Damon drove. I think Biggs was with them, Biggs Kareem. That's my recollection. We went to the office. I think Al Branch was there. I think Hip Hop might have been there. Can't remember. Al Branch, definitely I remember. Colleen was the lady who looked after them.
Okay.
She was lovely. And I remember this crew. I came back to London. We made the offer. We'd already discussed it, so it wasn't like a negotiation. The negotiation happened there. They're cool. And then we had a time frame in which our American labels had to make the deal. So I remember calling head of Arista, calling the head of RCA, calling the head of black music at RCA, Kevin Evans. I remember calling the head of Pete Jones, who's head of distribution for BMG. And they all said,
go for it.
No, they all said no.
But you had to do the deal with them?
I had to, as a UK label, I had to get them to commit to release.
Oh, in America.
I could pay the money. Yeah. I could pay the money.
And they all said no.
And they all said, no, we're just not feeling this.
That's crazy.
I was like, you're crazy. The minute our period ended, Def Jam, Columbia, and I think Interscope were all trying to close a deal with him.
Yeah.
Because the record was carrying on climbing the chart.
Of course.
And we were like, how did that, by the way, this is the digital changes that. I don't have to kiss the arse of American record execs and say, please work my record in America.
Right.
Because if it's doing that sort of business,
it's going to do it anyway.
It's going to do it anyway. So at this stage, unfortunately at the time, but listen, life worked out brilliantly. Jay became a megastar and a billionaire and is one of the greatest talents of all time. Mm-hmm. And to me is one of the goats of rap music and will always be. Okay.
Yeah, for me too.
Okay, cool.
No, that's my goat.
Okay.
Easily will say that.
And we did the first 3 albums everywhere outside America. First time I met Leo, because Leo had the license eventually for America. First time I met Tom Markowitz, because he was the business affairs for Def Jam in New York.
Right.
I met all these people. I met Steve Stout, because Trackmasters did an extra track for us on one of the album. I met the whole world of rap music from London. And then my boss came in, which was Richard Griffiths, who later became a very good friend of mine, and he managed 5 Seconds of Summer, he managed Ollie Murs, which I did with him, JLS, which I did with him, and Lamar. I did 4 acts with him,
tough
and
guy
everyone
here.
was
Fair.
Very tough.
Yeah.
But I adore him, and I've got nothing but love and respect for him. He turned up and went, these guys got the wackest rapper and their boy band is never going to work. The boy band's second single went to #1, sold 1 million albums, and the rapper is Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And the minute Jay-Z released Hard Knock Life, my boy band had a #1. All of a sudden, he's like, these guys are the greatest.
I always knew it.
I always knew it. And by the way, he's been brilliant for me ever since. And it shows you show business, just have one hit and everything changes.
But did you have Hard Knock Life? You had all those albums?
I had Reasonable Doubt, In My Lifetime Volume 1, In My Lifetime Volume 2, for 20 years. 10 years plus an extra 10.
Oh, wow.
And by the way, that's when people get all like crazy on me, like, oh, I don't want to do this term. It doesn't matter to Jay has got everything now.
Yeah.
And he's a 50-something-year-old man. He owns his entire catalogue.
Yeah.
Great. But 20 years, all the record labels got to make money. But who made the most money out of the whole project? Him.
Yeah.
He became a billionaire because he's a genius, right? So when everyone gets like all twisted on me, yeah, I want to do the shortest deal ever. I'm like, look, Riri, Kanye, Jay, Dr. Dre, all these artists, 50, I don't know how much 50 Cent's worth, but very wealthy man as well. These really wealthy artists all made their money by being a name in music and using their branding.
Leveraging it to build other verticals.
And Steve Stout's book.
Tanning of America.
Tanning of America. What an incredible book.
Yeah.
But how they turned black artists into product endorsers who owned a piece of the company.
Right.
It's genius, right? Genius. And I feel that Steve was instrumental in this whole process. But you also had some of the great minds, Obviously, there's other issues for the moment. But Diddy is a genius in terms of marketing and music, right? Of course, there's other stuff.